A candidate who was showered with praises for her lucid judgments during her acting stint at the Gauteng High Court division sparked a debate on the relationship between private property and the Constitution. Academic Professor Wilhelmina du Plessis, who boasts a rich experience within academia and education, focusing predominantly on issues of property law under the constitutional scheme, was probed on the relationship between property law and the Constitution. JSC Commissioner Advocate Tembeka Ngcukaitobi probed Professor du Plessis on whether or not she doubts if the Constitution embraces an unbridled form of property and whether we can expect a challenge of the notion itself from her. Joining us for more on day 4 of the JSC interviews is SABC News reporter Canny Maphanga. Good afternoon, Canny. Talk us through day 4 of the JSC interviews. We understand specifically one candidate had to withdraw mid-interview.
Indeed. Good afternoon to you, Mfunda, and to the viewers at home. Of course, this morning when the Gauteng High Court division started its interviews, that was 9 candidates. They're wrapping up the last candidate right now before deliberations. There was a lot of excitement regarding 2 professors that have raised their hands, or had rather raised their hands, for a spot on the Gauteng bench, of course, because of these academics and legal scholars, the kind of benefit that they can give to the Gauteng bench as it goes through the number of challenges that it goes through right now. Of course, the first candidate who you have spoken of, Mfundo, that is Professor du Plessis, went through a very smooth interview, cruised right through it, and I'm sure I won't be surprised if the JSC recommends her later. But the second candidate, that is Prof, who we have seen acting, or rather giving service to the electoral court, raised his hand here for the Gauteng High Court, and of course there wasn't much issue about his skills or whether he can perform as a judge, but rather the issue of his conduct in relation to social media and the kind of controversy that surrounds him with 2 disputes with 2 universities that we've heard of in the JSC, who have raised objections here to him becoming suitable for a judge, leading to him withdrawing his candidature mid-interview. So he will lose out on that spot, one of the 2 professors to the Gauteng bench. But to elaborate further on this, I am joined by Judges Matter Alison Tilly to elaborate further on this issue. Quite a sad moment for Professor Puko, whose interview started off quite well until these objections about his conduct on social media. And I think it really speaks to the expectations of a judge, as well as consideration on his background and his experience of injustices in South Africa and what may have influenced his openness to discuss these issues on social media. But we know the standards for a judge are much different.
I think Chief Justice Meyer perhaps put it a little too strongly, where she said that social media was the problem. I'm not sure that that's really what the interview showed. I think it showed that if you do want to be a judge, you have to show a measure of reserve, of being careful, of not saying things unnecessarily or out of turn. And I think that's really where he fell at the hurdle of his not just having an issue, but making it public, posting it on social media, circulating it to the media, the sort of traditional legacy media. And it certainly, I think the judge president certainly indicated that he didn't think he'd had enough experience either. So it might not have been the only problem that he had, but certainly I think he was really wise in withdrawing.
Shouldn't this have been an issue that the sifting committee should have picked up prior to him arriving here and been able to shortlist with the background of that? If we consider the first candidate as well, who had 9 outstanding judgments, I mean, that would have been quite obvious for the JSC itself not to shortlist a candidate like that. And if such an issue like this, which dominated at least an hour of that interview, surely the sifting committee could have reconsidered that shortlist before bringing these candidates to this interview today.
I think the question of the role of the shortlisting committee has really come up in this week. Really, have they been applying their minds to the candidates? Have they been looking at whether they're appointable? And I think there would have been certainly a number of interviews that could have been avoided if the sifting committee had been a bit more rigorous.
Well, thank you very much. That is Judges Matters Alison Tilley joining us right now. We are running out of time as we wrap up day 4 of the JSC interviews. Of course, you're seeing Alison Tilley there highlighting the role of the JSC and some of the flaws that have existed in the JSC's processes in shortlisting the candidates that it does bring to the JSC. Of course, we expect that some candidates will be recommended for the Gauteng bench later today. However, we don't expect that they'll be able to fill all 6 vacancies, which should be a cause of concern for the busiest court in the country that is currently dealing with serious challenges that need more judges to join the division in order to relieve them of the current pressure that they're feeling right now as a division.